Hi, I'm James and welcome to something slightly different for a change. What I'm looking at is the board game Red Storm Rising. Now this was put out by TSR in 1989, so it's not the newest of games. I picked up a copy second hand, so I thought I'd just give a quick explanation of the game, and I'm also going to look at how it plays. So it's basically representing a Soviet attack into Europe, into Western Europe that is, set using the background for Red Storm Rising by Tom Clancy. As a result of that, nuclear weapons aren't used, chemical weapons aren't, but they are an option in the advanced rules. So setup is fairly straightforward. This is the basic game setup, and as you can see, a bit reminiscent of the game Stratego. The units are placed so only you can see them. I'll turn a couple so you can see there's a couple of French units there, and each unit is of two types. You've got, as we've got there, which are the armoured units, and you've also got the infantry units, differentiated by a different symbol, which is different by nationality, which is a nice little touch, but it also is black for an armoured unit and white for a mechanised unit, so there is a slight difference there. Units are given correct designations and they are very, very well researched, particularly for what was out at the time. So this is the setup. You have the limits that when you're setting up, NATO has to have a unit on every area on the Iron Curtain, and they are differentiated by where they go. So for example, the US and Canadian area is the area in red. The French area is there because the French troops initially weren't under NATO command. You've then got, as you move up, a bit of a gap, but you've then got, which I'll come to in a minute, you've then got the British and Belgians, and then the Danish and Dutch troops. So they're set up like that, and there's a similar breakdown between the different armies on the Warsaw Pact side, although they're not broken down in the same way by nationality. And it's worth noting that in the Pact ones there is an overlap, which is quite useful for concentrating your forces. On the NATO side, you've also got the West German units, which are more flexible. They can be deployed anywhere. Some of them will have to be deployed in certain sectors just to make sure that you actually have enough space to comply with the rule for making sure the border is fully covered. Now, units are rated on a scale of 1 to 5. Units with 1 or 2 ratings are destroyed on the first hit. Unit of 3 survives the first hit, is destroyed by the second, and the 4 and 5 strength units require 3 hits to destroy. Now hits are very nicely differentiated. There's a little mechanism where you slide that little damage token in, so that one wouldn't actually be appropriate because it's a value of 2, so that will be destroyed straight away. What you do is you indicate a single hit by having 1 sticking out, and a second hit by sliding out the second. So it's a very quick, simple system. I quite like that. It's very visual, and it does let you see that from the other side where there are damaged units. So that's a nice, elegant, simple little mechanism. Combat's very straightforward. You roll a 10-sided dice, and if you roll your attack number, the 1 to 5, then the unit is pushed back. If you roll under it, then you inflict a hit and push them back. Sorry, equal hit or pushback at the defending player's choice. If it's below the number, then it's a hit and a pushback. And if, like in most war games, if you can't retreat, it's an automatic destruction. And if you roll a 1, if your strength is higher, then you automatically destroy the other units straight away. Now, nice mechanism for the attacks. If I've got 2 units in the same area and the front one wins the attack. If the second unit is an armoured unit, it can then move forward and attack. So nice simple little mechanism. Now on the board you can see the areas are broken down. You've got woods and rough. Now in the basic game they have no difference at all. Okay, fair enough. You've also got the rivers, which a minor river such as this one, that reduces your attack value by 1. A major river such as the Rhine actually reduces your attack by 2. They are quite significant amounts, as you can imagine, when you're only looking at a scale of 1 to 5. Now you also have each nationality having support markers. Now the support marker, if I play that in an area, I roll 2 dice and choose the best result. So it's quite a useful little mechanism. Now that you've also got markers for cities. Now once a city is taken, you mark it with a city taken indicator. If it's then taken back, it's flipped over, so you know who's currently in control of it, but the fact it was taken. So you have those. There's a very nice mechanism which I really like, which is the fact that the Warsaw Pact units attack and then move, whereas NATO units move and then attack, and it really represents the doctrines very well. I'm very impressed by that. It's not a long game to play. There are only 4 turns in the basic game. There is an optional rule to make to play a long game, which does take a bit longer to play. Again, nice little touch. The short game is basically based on the logic that the war will be over very quickly. Now there is an advanced game with it as well. You get 2 rule books. They're not, as you can see, they're not exactly massive rule books. The basic rules come to 11 pages, and it's not exactly small type. Reminds me very much in style of some of the GDW material. So that's the basic rules. The advanced rules run to 19 pages, and bear in mind 4 of them are taken up by what the counters are. There's sidebars telling you about the different bits of equipment, which is quite good. The advanced rules break down. You have advanced and optional rules. So the advanced rules start bringing in extra factors. One of the big ones are the use of assets. Now these can be added to units, but you have to have the right type of unit. So for example, we've got there the British artillery unit. So what I can do is attach that. In this case I'm attaching it to the 19th Infantry Brigade, and that now adds 1 to the combat power. So the artillery does that. Now you'll notice as well that I've got a yellow one there, which is an engineer one. I'm just checking the yellow is the 3rd Shock Army. So the Russian unit, or Warsaw Pact units, will have a colour coding, little triangle on it, same as the NATO ones. I can only use that with those, just as the British one can only be used with a British unit. Now engineer units can be used in a number of ways. The main one is they negate the penalties for river crossing, but there is an optional rule as well where you can actually place this down where your unit is actually in that one of those areas, and now that river does not exist for the purpose of movement in between those 2 areas. Easy to destroy. It can be destroyed by enemy unit moving into the area, or it can be destroyed by aircraft, which I'll look at in a minute. The next type you've got are tank editions. Now when they're red and white striped like these, they can be used on any Warsaw Pact unit. So tank units add 1 to the combat value, and then there's the chemical weapons. Now chemical weapons are one of the optional rules. In the book they're not used because the East Germans are vehemently against it and threaten to withdraw from the Warsaw Pact. So the penalty if you do use these, which give you a bonus of 2 to your combat power, is the East German units are all removed immediately from the board. Makes it an interesting choice whether you use them or not. You also have the problem that the Americans, in particular, will then use chemical weapons back with no penalty. So you have to make a very big strategic decision there. So those assets can be added, and again, they just go in. Now they do actually add an interesting little extra element in that when these are put in, so let's say for example we have our 20th Guards motor rifle unit and we have 1 damage, but we also have chemical weapons. So that's now effectively a strength 5 unit, but it's taken 1 hit. Unless you're using an optional rule, then damage doesn't affect it. Viewed from that side, I don't know what that is. That could be a strength 5 unit with 2 additions to it, effectively giving, and one of them is a chemical weapon, making that a strength 8, which would be absolutely devastating in an attack. Or it could be a strength 3 unit that's taken 1 hit and has got 1 addition to it. So it's quite useful. If it's only got the 1 in there, now is that a damaged unit or is that an enhanced unit? I don't know. So there is quite an element of bluff and double bluff as you play this. Now the main part of the advanced rules features this. This is the air combat. Now the air combat is where the game does move a little bit back into NATO's favour. Now it's split. If I turn that, I'll put it down the sand. You can see we've actually got a north and a south sector. Now that actually divides along the board. Okay. Now the air support line there, basically anything I deploy in the northern sector can only be used there, anything in the southern sector there, and it's split as per the 2nd and 4th Tactical Air Forces, and it says that they've just matched the Russian ones for ease of play. Okay, that makes sense. Now air units come in a number of types. You have AWACS units. Now AWACS units basically enhance other aircraft. They're put into the command mission section, okay, and each one of those then gives a plus on the to hit roll. You then start assigning the attack aircraft. So the attack aircraft, if I put up all the different, I'll put the different types down. We'll look at the different versions. You can see there we've got different colours. Now a yellow one is an air superiority aircraft. So if that attacks, that rolls 2 dice in air-to-air combat, and obviously that helps. If however you then use that either a ground attack or interdiction, you just roll 1 dice and it only hits on a 1. So it's getting the right aircraft. The next type, we've got a black number. Now they're good all-round aircraft like the F4 Phantom. 1 dice regardless of the target. You've then got green numbers. Green numbers like this British Harrier are ground attack aircraft. They roll 2 dice in ground attack and interdiction, but only 1 dice hitting on a 1 in air-to-air combat. And you've also then got helicopters, which you can tell by the white or light blue symbol as opposed to black. They generally are going to be ground attack. In fact, I think they all are ground attack. So they're useful that way, but they have a penalty on the chance of being shot down. What you do is you roll to see if the attack goes in and what the result was. So these are assigned, and the game does suggest assigning these secretly. They actually suggest using a double record album. Good luck in finding one of those these days. But you could use the box, just split down the middle and reveal it after each one. So you basically put on your command missions, then your tactical, and then your ground attack and interdiction. So it's a nice little bit of chrome. It does add some detail and a fair bit of time to the game. Doesn't work as well solo. I find the game plays relatively well solo. as long as you can forget what your where your units are, which the way my memory's going, that's not that hard to do. So we have all of that side. Now there is a bonus as well, in that this can actually be added to the Hunt for Red October game, also a TSR that they brought out previously. Now that allowed you to integrate the two games, and the resupply and the reinforcement track changed as a result. Now in the game you get so many counters depending on which scenario you're playing. When you're playing the Hunt for Red October, you have to get the convoy across. If the convoy doesn't arrive, you get no reinforcements. So you could get more or less than the basic amount. It's a very nice little mechanism. Would work really well, I think, with multiple players. It does say in this it can be played for two or four players. NATO works relatively well with one player commanding the lot. The Warsaw Pact, again, you could do it the same way, or you could actually split it so you've got a ground commander and an air commander, because it's very rare in reality that these two actually see eye to eye and do the same thing. So that would work. You could then add in the naval commanders to it, and you could turn this into a club project or over a day or a weekend. It's an option. There was a third game I had in the series many years ago, which was A Line in the Sand, which was the Gulf War. That also had a set of rules for expanding it to general Middle East war. That introduced a lot more rules for diplomacy, and I believe there were a few based around the Second World War. So that's the basic background to the game. I'm going to play the game. What I will do is I will speed up the video, and I'll put a little bit of a commentary in as we go. So at the minute the game is all set up, and what I'll do is I'll actually clear the bits that aren't going to be in use in the game out of the way, and I'll take a photo so you can actually see how it looks from behind the two lines, and the difference it makes when you look at it with a blind view. Right, so turn one from the Russian perspective. I'm going to start with the attacks. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the attacks in the north first. So I'm going to attack there. I've got a value of 4 attacking. I don't know what I'm attacking, so let's roll. 3. So I've got a hit and forced it to retreat. Now it turns out that's a single unit, value 2, so it takes a single hit before it's destroyed. And because I've got a tank in the rear, that can now move forward into that space. So that's a good start for the Russians. We'll go into another attack there. So this time I've got a value of 4, 2, so again I've forced a hit and retreat, and again it's a value 2, so I can now follow up with the tank. Actually, I thought I'd done that wrong. That can now attack again, so I'll do that one first. 7, it missed, so I'll do the same with that one. I'll attack into Hamburg. 4, so that's a hit and retreat, and again it's a German value 2 unit, so that's now destroyed. So basically we've now taken out quite a chunk in the north there. So we'll launch an attack over the river, so -1, it's a 4 now down to a 3, still a hit and retreat. So this time it's got a value of 3, so it does take a hit and retreats. Now in neither of the spaces it can retreat into would normally be allowed because of the units. You try and move into one without any support first, so I'm going to retreat into this one because there is a unit, therefore it can do it. That then moves forward, and I'll launch an attack into that one. 2, so again a hit and retreat. Now because it's a value 4, that one can retreat. Now, because there's an area there where there is no Russian unit next to it, it retreats to there. So I can now launch another attack. 10, so no effect. Okay, so launch an attack into that one there. 2, so a hit and retreat. So that's the Russian combat. Taken out 4 units, damaged quite a few others, so they can now move. Now, when it comes to moving, if they're not in contact and they don't move next to an allied unit, they can actually move twice as fast. They can move 4. Okay, so let's take Kiel. So that's now taken. So that's 1. Okay, and I'll move it back to there. Can't get any further because I've been moving next to another NATO unit. So move these forward to there. So that's Hamburg taken. Move that forward to there. Now, for the Warsaw Pact, a lot of this each turn is setting up what you're going to do in the following turn. Because you can't move and then attack. You're attacking then moving, which is great for exploiting gaps as we've done there, but not so good when you're trying to launch new attacks. It's interesting that the southern end, which is sort of the Czech and Czech units, haven't seemed to have done as well. Actually, that seems to be quite realistic. So let's try and exploit here, I think. Now this is where I start thinking, where am I going to be looking at attacking next turn? Also looking at the type of unit that you're using, because you want to be thinking about the follow-up rule. I just need to be careful I don't get counter-attacked and lose Warsaw Pact cities. So that's been a pretty effective attack from the Warsaw Pact. So that's the end of the Warsaw Pact turn. Let's now go to the NATO. Okay, so how am I going to respond as NATO? It looks really bad from here. I can see there's a great big gap developing there. There's a push coming through there, possibly through there. I'm holding quite well in the south there. I think my biggest concern is the north. So I think this is going to be a case of a bit of restructuring my forces. I think it's a case of dropping back slightly with some of these. Try and hold Bremen, I think. Hanover is becoming a bit of a problem. I'm going to hold there as best I can. Good concentration of British armour in there. This is the difference with NATO moving first. They're very good at quick little counterattacks. I'm not setting up very many at the minute because I'm more concerned about trying to protect. We're developing some gaps here, so I'm going to have to bring these back. Now I've got the French I can be using to plug gaps. NATO attacks. So I've got very little. Okay, so we have the reinforcement phase next. Now for the reinforcement phase, the NATO player draws 3 units, the Warsaw Pact draws 4. Now NATO, Belgium, French and Netherlands go into their own countries, West Germany, US and United Kingdom in West Germany on or next to any West German city controlled by NATO, and the Warsaw Pact, they go into within one space or in a Warsaw Pact city that's not being captured. So for NATO, what did I draw? Well, I've got the 304th Regiment from the Netherlands, and I've got the American 7th Armoured and 7th Infantry. Now, they are very, very useful. So we'll start this one at the Dutch there. I've got these two. Where do I want to put these? It's a big decision for this one. I think I'll put the 7th Armoured up in the north, ready to counter-attack, and the 2nd Armoured will bring into Nuremberg. I know it's not needed there at the minute, but it's just giving me, so to Nuremberg, it's giving me that backup there. So let's have a look at it from the Russian side. Where am I going to put my Russian units? So what do I have? 8th Guards, 18th Guards, 20th Guards and the 10th Polish. Ooh. Now where do I need to... Let's go for the proper Russian way of doing this, which is to reinforce success. So we'll put the 8th Guards and the 20th Guards here. A bit crowded for space there. I think I'll put the 10th Polish forward there, and we'll bring the 18th Guards in there. So I'll leave the video of the game running while I just talk about it. Now, it's very easy when you look at a game that you played many, many years ago. I mean, this one, let's be realistic, I first played this 31 years ago, 32 years ago, somewhere around about that. That's a long time. It's easy to sort of forget what it's like. Now, I have to be honest, I love this. It's quick, it's simple, it captures a lot of the flavour of the period. I appreciate there's a lot of gamers now who won't remember it and probably wouldn't appreciate it in the same way I did. I grew up, this was part of my life. The research on it was pretty accurate, given the ability, particularly for the Warsaw Pact information at the time, access to that. It's one of the better researched ones. Doug Niles, who designed the game, did an excellent job on that. It's quick. I mean, the game played here took just over an hour. It resulted in a pretty clear Soviet victory. By the end of the game, they'd taken 5 cities. I used the variable turn ending rule, and it finished a turn early, so okay. Yeah, I made mistakes commanding things. I could have made better decisions, but that's what happens in real life. For such a simple game, it's captured the flavour very, very well. Just little touches like the unit silhouettes being the appropriate type of armour or APC, that's a really good touch. You could start adding chrome on, you could extend the board up into Denmark, down into Austria. I may well get around to doing that at some point. You could possibly play around with the rules. I do think if you did, you'd be tinkering with something that works and probably producing something a bit more complex. It's hardly going to be up there with GDW's Third World War. I'm a fairly casual gamer. I like a quick, simple game I can pick up and play. The fact that it plays well solo is a surprise. It really shouldn't. But it's very easy to forget what units are where. Yeah, I did have a bit of a head start with that, but I'm usually quite good at switching it off. I mean, I paid, including postage off eBay, trying to think exactly how much it came to. It was around £30 for this. Do I regret that? Not a chance. I'm actually going to keep my eyes open for some of the other games in the series. If anybody's got one they want to get rid of, just want to drop me a line, please let me know. Hopefully it's been useful for you, that it's not too hard to track down a copy. So hopefully some more of you may well be picking it up and enjoying it as much as I have. See you soon for another review.